Good morning, everyone. So, today I'm going to share with you my story. I've been putting this off for quite a while because my history and my past are extremely extensive, and I'm not proud of any of my past other than the person that I became through this. Um, I'm in my mid 40s. I was raised a very poor hillbilly in the mountains, and half the time, if we didn't hunt or it didn't come from a food bank or something like that, we didn't eat. So, I automatically, the deck was stacked against me. I have dealt with chronic pain since a small child. Um, the reason for that has a lot to do with what I endured as a child, and definitely set the tone for the rest of my life. Um, my very first childhood memory is I remember one of my mother's boyfriends putting me on the front porch of wherever we were staying at the time in the dead of winter, several feet of snow on the ground, and nothing more than a wet diaper, just and for hours until my mom got home because he didn't want to be bothered with changing it. So that, needless to say, set the tone for my entire life. My first stepfather was, when he was sober, he was a great guy. He did everything he was supposed to, took care of us, provided us, and all that. But unfortunately, every night when he got home, he would down a bottle of whiskey and proceed to beat everyone in the house. Um, Me being the man, the only male in the house, I got more of the brunt of that than anyone. Um, my entire life, I've been beat down. I've been injured. I think the first time I ever went to actually talk to a doctor about my chronic pain, I was 8 years old. So that should give you an idea of how long I've been dealing with this. So my life has definitely had a bad tone put on it. I endured all of that until I was about 15 years old when I graduated from high school, got emancipated from my house, and I went to college. I attended a bachelor's degree in another state, um, as a way to try and get away from home. I received my 4 year bachelor's and 2 years at the age of 17. From that point on, and a large amount of it has to do with everything I grew up with, everything I went through, and all that. Um, I ended up on the streets. I stayed that way for close to 20 years. There was a small stint, well, not small, about a 9 to 10 year stint that I was with someone, um, that I was in love with them, but in the period that I was with them, that person and their entire family systematically raped and tortured me for years. Um, but I survived. I'm able to cope with it and move on. That being said, before the age of 15, I had broken nearly every bone in my body at least once. I had had numerous joints dislocated time and time and time again. Um, Parts of my body are deformed because of the amount of abuse I went through. Um, so let's move on past that. I'm that's trying to take me dark. So let's fast forward until my mid 30s. I had been told my entire life that there was something horribly wrong with me, that I wasn't right in the head. So I let doctors bounce me around, gaslight me, and misdiagnose me for 30 some odd years. Finally, in my mid 30s, I was given a diagnosis that finally made sense to everything I was going through or had gone through in my life. Um, I was diagnosed as being neurodivergent, a very high functioning neurodivergent. Um, After that, things just kind of made sense. Also, in my mid 30s, I decided I spent 20 years as a raging alcoholic, or more than 20 years. So, in my mid 30s, I decided it was time for me to get sober. It took me 15, 20 different chances before I finally got it right. Um, that was when my life started getting better. compared to everything else I'd been through in my life. And don't get me wrong, I've had a life, the stuff that nightmares and horror movies are made of. But on that same note, when I look back throughout all of that, I always had some type of blessing, someone in my life that would show me a better road, show me that being a good human um, could happen, even with someone like myself. So in my mid 30s, finally got sober. Um, about a year into my sobriety is when Lisa walked in the rooms. Instantly, my life changed. Now keep in mind, when I was 17 years old, I was in Salem, Massachusetts, and I dreamt about Lisa. And I had mistaken a couple of girls since then about possibly being her. But the minute I saw Lisa, I instantly knew right then and there that she was the one I dreamt about 20 years earlier. So, thankfully, she walked in the room, head over heels in love with her. She was just starting a divorce from an extremely abusive narcissist that controlled every aspect of her life. Lisa and I were best friends for a couple of years before our relationship happened. Out of everything I had ever gone through in my life or had given to me in my life, Lisa was she was the biggest blessing I'd ever had in my life, and ever will. Um, Lisa saw in me something I didn't even know was possible. She saw a good man who could live a good life and make good things happen for other people. Now, keep in mind, I've never done anything in my life with the intention of hurting anyone. That's one thing I had always been able to refrain from doing or even thinking of, and a lot of that probably has to do with my autistic mentality. There's a large amount of my life that has been influenced by my autism, even before I realized that I was autistic. So that was it. I fell head over heels in love with Lisa. Um, a year into her sobriety, I picked up my 2 year sobriety, and the next month, Lisa picked up her 1 year. Well, I walked over and gave Lisa my 1 year chip. And for anyone who knows anything about the AA and NA program knows that when you hit a year and you start getting all that, that's a big thing. Any amount of sobriety is a big thing, but when you hit heavy metal, it's a really big thing. So that was it. That set the tone for our friendship for the entire time. Um, the first year and a half that Lisa and I were together as friends, and the first 6 months of our relationship, things were very hard. Things were very difficult, very rocky. But that had a lot to do with Gen Xer being with with a boomer, and class differences. Lisa and I came from two completely different types of lives. Lisa grew up upper middle class in Marin County, California. Spent her winters at Tahoe. You know, whereas I've already told you how I grew up. So there was a lot of things fighting against us, and somehow we just made it happen. And then in 2019, January 2019, Lisa had been diagnosed with an extremely rare progressive neurological disease called adhesive arachnoiditis. I instantly stepped up, started studying everything about it. The numbers say approximately 11,000 people a year in the US are diagnosed with this disease. That's how rare it is. So I had to learn everything I could about Lisa and taking care of her as her disease progresses. Now, keep in mind, arachnoiditis and adhesive arachnoiditis generally takes decades to progress to the point where Lisa was. Um, and then, but because doctors didn't know what they were doing, didn't want to take care of her, didn't because she was too complicated, spent so much time shuffling her around that Lisa had probably 3.5 decades of progression in 3.5 years. In 3 years, Lisa went from being a 5'3" woman that I had to run to keep up with in the store to being bedridden and in excruciating agony every moment of every day. July 23rd of last year truly was the worst day of my life. 3 days before, I had to take Lisa into the ER because she was getting sick. We got her into the ER, and by the time we'd gotten into the ER, the infection had taken over so much that she was out of her mind, literally, and was ripping off the EPAP and the CPAP machine while they were trying to treat her. So I finally had to make the decision to sedate her and have her put on intubation to see if we could get the infection under control. I sat by her for 3 days in the hospital watching her intubated. And then on the third day, July 23rd, 2022, the doctors came in and notified me that they needed to move Lisa to another facility to put her on full life support. Lisa and I had made this decision and had discussed it numerous times. July 23rd, 2022, at 6:05 p.m., we removed Lisa's intubation. I laid there next to her, holding her, and I felt her depart. Lisa went through so much pain and so much agony after already, despite having growing up what most people would consider well to do. Lisa had been through hell for 35 years with her ex husband. And I'm grateful that I got the chance to be with her and love her. I'm grateful that she saw a person in me that I never knew was capable. Um, yeah, I just feel so blessed to have had her in my life. In my mid 30s, a year after Lisa was diagnosed with her disease, I was diagnosed with three progressive neurological diseases, one of which absolutely should have killed me within the first year, and now I'm going on year four. I don't talk about my illnesses because when all of this boils down to it, I'm not going to be around too much longer after this campaign's done. I can feel it. So I try and keep this as little about me as possible and make it all about the people that could benefit from this. Absolutely no one should suffer the agony that Lisa went through for those 3.5 years. I had to watch the love of my life waste away in horrible agony because of poor treatment from the doctors. And I've watched so many other sufferers of conditions that cause excruciating chronic pain every moment of every day because their doctors do not want to deal with them. We go to the hospital to try and get help with our pain. We go to our doctors, and the minute we walk in and they find out that we have a pain-inducing condition, we're instantly labeled as drug addicts, seeking, out of our minds, not mentally right. And I can tell you one thing beyond a shadow of a doubt: there is no way in hell pain is a mental illness. Not at all, but it does significantly impact your mental illness. But anyways, guys, I've rambled on enough, bawling my eyes out. I love you guys, and I'll update you guys more on the campaign later.